Well, hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be taking a closer look at what is in my golf bag leading into the 2026 season. This bag is subject to change at some point, maybe, or maybe not. However, let's take a deeper dive and see what I've got going on right now. So there's two clubs that aren't actually in this golf bag right now. However, I've got them over here and they're kind of, I would say, experimental clubs as we speak right now. The first one up is a 3-iron. It's a Titleist T250U iron. The thing that I love about this iron is actually when you start to look at what else I've got in my golf bag, the top leading edge on this particular club is just nice and thin and it blends beautifully into my irons. Not a lot of offset, which I really like. Now, what's interesting about this particular club is I took the shaft out of, which I've got it over here, I took it out of an old T100 4-iron head and I've put it into this 3-iron head. And the reason why I've done that is because I don't want the club going too far. If you put the 3-iron head in with the 3-iron shaft, sometimes I can get it going a little bit too far and then that runs into what I've got somewhere else in the bag as well. So this has got a Project X 6.0 which runs basically through the bag. Now this club is perfect for when I get into those kind of windy conditions or getting out onto the links course. And you might see me use this a little bit more maybe in the summertime when you get a little bit more run out of the fairways. And then the other club that I've got in the bag, which is just a bit of experimental at the moment, is an older head as in the driver head. It's a TSR2 head. It's at 9 degrees, it's set in A1 setting. And the reason why I've kind of got this in the bag right now is because of the shaft that we've been experimenting with. Now, I've been working a little bit with KBS and they've created a new shaft, driver shaft, which is called the TG Black. This one is actually the 60 gram in the S flex, so stiff flex. Now, what's really cool about this particular shaft, and until you've tested it, you probably won't get the feel of it, but it's kind of all the characteristics that you would get out of a steel shaft, but they've put it into a graphite shaft, which then goes beautifully with the driver head. So you get all the speed that you want from a graphite shaft into your driver, but you also get the control of what you're going to get out of a steel shaft. So for someone like me who really enjoys playing steel shafts, let's say over graphite shafts, because I feel like I've got more control, that driver has been performing really well. But I'm just kind of at this moment in time experimenting with it just at this moment. So it may go in the bag at some point. We're going to spend a bit more time on the golf course with it, but we'll see. With that in mind then, we'll actually look at the driver that I've actually got in the bag. Now, this driver has been in the bag for a little while. It's the Titleist GT3. Now remember, I used to work alongside Titleist for a few years, probably 4 or 5 years. Haven't worked with them for a couple of years now, but I just still love using their products because it's some of the best on the market, isn't it? 9 degree GT3 head, slightly different to the TRS2 head. The TRS2 head being slightly bigger, a little bit more forgiving, maybe slightly higher in the launch, a little bit more spin. But this GT3 head, slightly smaller in its profile and then giving me slightly lower spins. Now, this whole driver was a complete accident really, how I actually ended up with it in the bag. The shaft is a Diamana ZF 60 gram and it's in a TX flex, so Tour Extra Stiff flex. There's absolutely no reason why this should be in my bag, but the combo of this head set in a B3 setting at 9 degrees with this particular shaft, it just seems to work really well for me. It's standard length, but the strike that I got from it when I first started hitting it was absolutely fantastic. The weight distribution in the head is all set into neutral. So when it's something that you kind of come across or, you know, run across, should we say, if it kind of works, well, just kind of stick with it. Maybe not ask any questions, but stick with it. What is slightly different from this particular club as well is the grip on it. Now, this one is, the reason why they got this grip on it, which is a super lightweight Golf Pride grip, is my brother been messing around with it and he put it on here because he wanted to try and lighten up this end of the club. But ultimately, it all kind of works for me, so I'm kind of sticking with it as we are, well, right now. So experimenting between the two drivers, but this one is certainly in the bag going into the 2026 season. Then we move into, well, let's bounce about, shall we? Putter. I mean, you've all seen this putter many, many times. I've used the Newport 2 for years and years and years. This is a custom version, so this is the newest Newport 2 out on the market, should we say, prior to when they put the inserts into the newest one. So this is the one that's got this sort of standard face, I'm going to call it. Now, I had this one blackened out completely with a little white streak on the top there for my alignment. It just really helps me align up with the black and the white. I've got my colours of my channel, which is the gold and the purple. I've got 40-gram weights in this particular head, which isn't correct from the fitting point of view. This is a 34-inch putter, which means that you should have probably I think 30-gram weights in the head, but I like to feel as much weight on the putter as I possibly can. So that's why I went for those particular weights. We've got 3 degrees of loft on here. It's set with 1 degree flat in its lie angle, so it is slightly different. And then I've just put on again the Matador grip, which is the original grip that it came with when I bought it. This particular grip is, I have bounced around a few different grips, but I keep running back a lot, and you see a lot of the products that are in my bag, I keep running back to them. So that's the putter that's in the bag and is probably going to be staying in the bag. If I bounce around too much, I get a bit inconsistent with my putting. Then though, we move into wedges. Now this is a new addition to the bag. All 4 wedges that I've put in here are the new SM11 wedges by Vokey. I've only just been through the fitting and they've only just been released, but a couple of different things that I've got going on. Loft-wise, I've always used a 60 degree, and I always had it as a 60 with 10 degrees of bounce in an S grind, which I really do like that, to be fair. However, when I went for my fitting at Woburn, we moved into a 60 with 12 degrees of bounce in a D grind. That D grind having a little bit more heel relief, a little bit more toe relief, which enables me to be able to maneuver it around a little bit more, even though there is a little bit more bounce on it. Project X 6.0 shafts with the MCC, so multi-compound with 1 extra layer of tape underneath. That runs right the way through the bag, to be honest with you. I then, however, have gone into a 54 degree F with a 14 bounce, so it's a full sole. I really like this. I always had a 56 degree, but the 54 we've bent to 55, and this is all to do with my gapping. The thing that I like about bending it the other way, so you could go 56 and take loft off. The problem with that is you make it more offset. By making it a stronger club and then weakening it, I'm going to make it more onset. So for me, the leading edge just sits right in position to that sort of shaft going into the head. So that works really, really well for me. Shaft-wise, everything the same as what I've just mentioned there. Then we go into a 50 degree, which I've had in the bag for years now. Again, we've got 12 degrees of bounce in an F grind at 50 degrees. That hasn't been messed about with. That's kept at 50 degrees. So I go 60, 55, and 50. However, now there's a new wedge that they've brought out, and I've always used, well, the last sort of couple of years really, I've used a custom Vokey pitching wedge in the bag rather than my iron set. Now, for the first time I've ever seen, Vokey have released a 44 degree wedge. As these clubs are all getting stronger, they need something else in the bag there that's going to be able to help people with that. Now I've got this in 10 bounce at F grind again, so full sole, playing more fuller shots with this one. But like I said, it's at 44 degrees in loft, but again, I've bent it to 45 degrees. So I go 45, 50, 55, 60, giving me the perfect gappings. Gets me out there just, I don't know, maybe a yard or two further than the old 46 that I had, but nothing major on that. But I just love looking down at that black finish with those particular Vokey wedges. Moving into my, let's go straight up through the bag now, into my irons, and some of you will really be happy with the fact that I've gone back to my Titleist MBs. Now these are the 620 MBs. I've had these since 2019, and it was only last year that I experimented with the Mizuno set of irons, of which I just struggled with them. I really did. I changed the shaft setup, I changed obviously the head. So I've gone back to my old MBs. They are a little bit battered up, if I'm honest now. They're a bit tired, but they're still going well. You know, I've still got the same shafts, obviously 6.0 Rifle Project X, which keeps that flight down just a little bit more traditional in the loft, so 7 iron, 35 degrees in loft, and then kind of working from then. So I don't necessarily hit these as far as what the people that I play with would hit them, but I just feel like I've got so much more control with these particular clubs. I love the lack of offset. I love the fact that it's got a thin top line. And to be honest with you, a set of blades, you probably argue why you're using a set of blades, Dan, but I just like the fact that if I miss-hit them, they come up short, and it's very rare that I'll get a flyer out of an iron like this because I'm getting plenty of spin and control coming into the greens. The good thing about these is that they blend perfectly into my wedges. I run them from 9 iron all the way up to the 5 iron in the set. I never got a 4 iron, which probably is not a bad thing, even though I do regret not having it for the set. But this is where that 3 iron that I talked about just a moment ago came into it. That blended perfectly into this set. And I'm now experimenting with a hybrid. Yes, the hybrid. Coming out the bag, this one is fresh. In other words, I've never had it on the golf course. I'm gonna be taking it away with me on my next trip. But under the Pebble Beach head cover is a TaylorMade QI 4D Rescue Club. It's in 19 degrees of loft. However, with the loft sleeve, I'm able to maneuver that, and I've brought it down by 1.5 degrees, getting me down at 17.5 degrees. The reason why it's a little bit stronger in its loft is because the shaft that I've put in it is a KBS, it's a prototype one, it's a 105 X Flex. Now, there's a story behind this one. Joe the Pro put this into an iron for me, of which I just struggled with it, really did struggle with it. However, I wanted to experiment with it in a hybrid head because I felt like we got a little bit more forgiveness in the head, a little bit less forgiveness in the shaft, but it feels really rigid to me, which I actually really enjoy. Something that I went through with the Ping guys over in Arizona, they said because I'm quite handsy from the top of the swing, so as I pull on it, I'm quite aggressive as I pull down. He said actually having something that's a little bit more X-Flex or stiffer in the hands is actually really easy for me to be able to control, and that's just, it's like your signature. You're just not, you know, each of us are different with how we perform from the top and how we transition down, and those shafts work for that individual, and having a super heavy stiff shaft for me that you've seen right the way through my bag, it just seems to work for me. So the other thing that I struggled with when it came to putting this into this head was when I took it out of the other club, the wear on the actual bottom of the shaft was a bit poor, and I didn't want to reveal it and just show it worn out, should we say there. So I actually tipped it slightly, which actually is going to make this play even stiffer again. So it's slightly shorter in its length because of that, closer to a 4 iron length, but allowing me to be able to de-loft it slightly, that sort of counteracts it a little bit, so it still gets me out there at pretty much about 200 to 205 yards in the air, which is absolutely ideal for what I want to blend in going in from my irons. Then though, we move into the 5-wood. Probably don't even need to show this one because it's exactly the same as been in every what's in the bag that I've had. The RBZ by TaylorMade, it's the Rocket Ball Stage 1 5-wood, 19 degrees of loft. It's got plenty of wear and tear on it. I actually am considering, well, I've been looking around looking for some backup heads, if I'm honest with you, because as it gets a bit older, the face gets a bit thinner, I just don't want it to crack, and over time these clubs will crack. It's got a random shaft, not a random shaft, it's got a shaft that's from the tour head that's been put into the standard head, should we say. There was 2 heads that they made at the time. One was a tour model, slightly smaller in its profile, and then a slightly bigger standard head. This is the tour shaft that's in this head. I never put it in there. I found it at an Edwin Watts shop in Orlando, and it was already made up. And for some reason, again, X-Flex, TP shaft, it just works. And again, like I said, if it works, don't change it. Finally, we've got, I think it's finally, the 3-wood. GT2 3-wood. Got to talk about the head cover game in a moment, just to sort of fill you in with my purchases throughout the years. 13.5 degrees at this headset, but it's in a B1 setting, so you can look it up what the B1 setting, in fact, the B1 setting would be right there telling you exactly what it is. We've now got the Tensai 1K black shaft, 75 gram in stiff flex. So think about it, extra stiff in my driver, extra stiff in my 5-wood. extra stiff in the hybrid, yet I've got a stiff shaft in the Fairway 3-wood. Again, it just comes down to what feels right to me as an individual, and this one just feels great every time I set up to it. I've experimented with mini drivers to possibly replace it, but to be honest with you, this one just does such a great job. It's got a nice kind of shallow profile, so it makes it really easy for me to get it off the deck when I'm in the middle of the fairway. But all in all, really happy with how this one is performing. Grip-wise, multi-compound, but we've got the Align Max grips on this particular one. Kind of jumping backwards and forwards between multi-compound standards and the Align ones. It just kind of, again, just comes down to a feel. So that's what's in the golf bag. Now, when it comes to head covers, really important for me, head covers. I've got my Pebble Beach one on my hybrid. I've got my DHG Ryder Cup version on the main driver. I've got this little bad boy that we picked up at the Open, and then I've got my English flag one on there, which is, again, really important to me personally. I've got a Scott Redman designed putter. This putter head cover has been on the bag for years. You can see how the original colour is underneath, and then it got worn out over the sun, wear and tear over the years with it, but it's been in the bag probably 8 years, maybe, something like that. Got a nice little magnet on the back there, but he made that one specially for me. It's got Dan, and then it's got Scott Member Redman custom design there on the putter head cover itself. I use sun mounting golf bags. I'm bouncing in between different balls that I'm using at the moment. But for the most part, I'm using Titleist Pro V1X, or the spinniest ball that I can kind of get hold of. And that's it. There you go. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you've enjoyed that What's in the Bag. Down in the comments, do you use any of the products that I use? I'd like to hear down there. Don't forget, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you again on the next video.